Hey, it's Sunday morning, post Valentine's, and that means green tea. And, today, I felt like I don't want to talk about data, but I do want to talk about books because I love to read. And not only do I love to read, I love when people in our industry write books and are all amazing, and I grow friendships with them. And some of these people I've known a long time and some not so long. And I find like we are in such an amazing industry where people get to write books. And all these books, you see, I mark them up like crazy. I'm a super reader, so I read a book a week. I've done this for ever since I probably began surfing, really, because you have a lot of downtime when you're surfing, a lot of lonely time. So I'd always bring books with me and leave them in villages or wherever I was in the world as I was surfing. And but I thought I'd share these three books. And I'm going to write up a little bit, and I'll link to them, the authors, so you can kind of find them out. First one is Larry Feldman. I will tell you, this guy, I had a call with him, and I was on a webinar first, and then I had a call with him. This is the most charismatic, probably, person I've met. He's also from New Jersey, so maybe I'm a little biased about that. But I can't say enough about Larry, and he sent me his book, which I was super thankful for. And, the things that really stood to me, first off, he mentions Dale Carnegie in the book. And Dale Carnegie was one of the first books I ever read as a kid growing up. I read Think and Grow Rich first out of the library, and then I read about Dale Carnegie and how to win friends and influence people. And he actually references, but he writes in here, and I'm going to read it because I think it's awesome. He said, I learned heavily forward, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, which ties into the more upbeat possibilities offered in Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Absolutely. And what stuck out here is you need to realize that when someone has a problem, you have an opportunity. The rewards are endless if you're willing to be someone who solves problems rather than some non-participant who shrugs her shoulders and walks away. Try to avoid those misguided souls who listen to their inner moron demons, and at all costs, don't become one of them. I loved this book. The title was, I was like, what is this? But once I got into it, I loved it. I love Larry. Reach out to him if you're looking for hiring new staff, getting new staff trained. He's amazing at recruiting and also, training people. So next one, Tom Kline. Super cool guy, previous dealer. This is the compliance guy in our industry. And Tom has a battle ahead of him to do this. And his Tuck the Octopus book, super cool, detailed, a couple things that really just jammed out to me. One of the things he mentions on his chapter 40, again, I had bookmarked this one, it says, sometimes you have to look reality in the eyes and deny it. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Obviously, I'm a surfer. This was an attorney who said this, I guess, Mary Glade. And, I look at that and I look at compliance like that. It's something we all and every dealership should learn and keep diligent of. But a lot of them don't. For whatever reason, they'll take the risks. They don't want to put in the work that's needed to be consistent. And it hurts. And those fines from the FTC are only growing. So if you're into compliance, get Tom's book. It's super impactful. He covers so much ground in here. Everything about, and I think hold on, let me see. I want to say when I first got the book, I looked at the table of contents and there was something that just totally stood out to me. Let me remember what it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I highlighted it. It was data breach response plan template. Many dealers don't have one of those. And this is a critical thing, especially in the age where hacking has become so prevalent. It's going to get worse because of AI. So this was worth the book alone. So anyway, I'll put that one in there. And finally, I just got this book. Chris Vesper, good friend of mine, car dealer, North Carolina. Chris and I go back a number of years. Chris is one of those guys I talk to maybe once a quarter, and it's we are always connected. It's amazing, you'd have those types of relationships. And I was on Chris's podcast, and he asked some really deep questions. His podcast Answers from the Stairs, because he gets on his Stairmaster every morning at like 4 in the morning or some ridiculous time like Jocko Willick's and gets out there and gets after it. And, you know, Chris, I had this relationship because Chris built really the first digital retail platform called GoGoCar, and his timing was just bad. I feel like if Chris would have timed it and have built this during the pandemic, GoGoCar would be in every car dealership today. It's crazy that sometimes when you build software and the timing to the market aren't right. So anyway, with Chris's book, again, I just finished this one. 2 things that really kind of stood out to me is like developing mental fitness. So I'm going to give you a very fun, interesting thing about Chris. Chris was a bodybuilder. He's a huge guy. And Chris and I were at David Kane's event in Kentucky, and I agreed to work out with Chris. Now, I work out, and I was working out a lot then. And Chris and I went to the gym for 2 days. I couldn't put my arms down when I got on the plane. I mean, this guy just shredded me. So not only does Chris have like mental fitness, he has amazing physical fitness, and I paid dearly for it. I went home and rechanged all my training because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to grow to another level. And the other thing I really liked, I don't remember what chapter it was in here, but he talks about failing and quitting. And I think that's so important to remember, that you can't fail if you don't quit. And a lot of times, I just, as an entrepreneur or just a person in life, these are super important things, and sometimes we just miss them. And I think that attitude is important. So to me, this is a book where after I read this, I was like, if I ever have moments where I have self-doubt or I'm concerned, this book will be pretty close to me being able to just grab it, read a little bit, kind of reorient myself. Chris did an amazing job on this book. And Chris, awesome. Thanks for sending it to me. Thanks for the note. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. So again, Sunday morning, tea time, totally different. Just wanted to kind of break it out and have a little bit of different fun. I'm going to write up all these books and the authors so you can kind of connect with them, get their books, have some fun, read. I know a lot of us don't read as much as we could, but I will tell you, it has been such a difference maker in my life to be a reader. So I hope you join that path too. Have a great Sunday.